How we doing?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the currently still unnamed podcast that we might be naming Taps and Patience. And if you're watching this or listening to it on Spotify, you probably found it under that name, but we may change it at some point in the future, just so you know. I'm AJ with Design the Everything, and I'm here with Harrison from Precision Ingenuity.
How we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, it's the beginning of another week, so got a lot of jobs coming up, which is always a good sign. What about you? What's your week look like?
So mostly focusing on the Kickstarter. A couple oddball things too, but I have a question for you. Talking about your week, so you've been doing this self-employed thing for a lot longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still notice days of the week? Like, do they register? Like, do you have a way of differentiating them?
Not really. No. In some cases, it feels like I've been doing this for 5 years, but I haven't even been doing it for a year yet. Um, End of September, beginning of October will be official 1 year doing this, and it's crazy because I don't feel like we're very far along as a business just yet. We're still extremely green and learning more and more every day. But I look at the person I was a year ago when I first started this up to the person I am now, and what I know and what how the business has evolved over that short period of time, and it's like it's been so many years more than it actually has been.
Yeah.
And it's it's cool because there's a lot of people that have become invested in us succeeding, and have started supporting us in a variety of different ways. And it's becoming more than just a business. It's becoming something that I want to succeed just to thank everyone that's helped us out so far. It's not so much just about me anymore as it is about all the people that are there helping us. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
what about for you?
In terms of differentiating the days of the week,
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like that each of my weeks is like 3 weeks. It's kind of what it feels like. Because I have, so I'm still working part time at my, previous day job.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like breaks the week up into little mini sub weeks where
Mm-hmm.
like I work for them Monday, Tuesday. On Monday, I actually travel. On Tuesday, I work from home. And then I have a day of Design the Everything. And that little chunk kind of feels like a week. And then I work for them again on Thursday. And then I have Friday, Saturday, Sunday to work on Design the Everything. And that
Mm-hmm.
also kind of feels like a week.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's like when we get busy, the weeks just fly by, and it's kind of a good thing. When you're busy and the time starts to fly by. I've worked at jobs where it feels like the hours crawl by,
Yes.
where you are sitting there staring at your phone for what feels like an eternity, and you look down, you're like, it's been 5 minutes,
Yep.
and, and it's like it feels so much longer. Versus now, where I get there at the shop in the morning and I start working on something, and it's like, man, I'm getting hungry. What time is it? It's already lunchtime. What's going on?
Yep.
I feel like I feel like I've gotten a lot done, but at the same time, not nearly as much as what I was hoping to. Um, so, in that respect, I prefer this over sitting there twiddling my thumbs, looking for something to do.
Yep.
I like being busy and always having something that I can move on to.
I'll have to say that like that sense of time just flying by is probably the most like stress inducive thing in my life right now. Is
Oh,
because I
okay.
look at time and I'm like, oh no, I need that. I have so much to do.
Well, I guess it kind of depends. If you were in the middle of production right now, and say you were, I don't know how many carabiners you can produce in a day, um, but for me, I'm always trying to figure out how much can I get done in a day,
Mm-hmm.
how much time does it take to do something. But when I have a goal, like those deck defenders, I could do um, 12 or 16 in a day if I had a really good day and everything was going well. And that is the op one, op two of the inside of the box and the outside of the box, and op one, op two inside and outside of the lids. So when I say a full box, it's two parts, four ops on each of those parts. So um, 12 times four, what is that? 48, 48 ops basically. So
Yeah.
in a day. And those were nice because they were longer. It'd run for 12, 15 minutes on one side. And so you could get that running in the background and you could still feel productive by doing some design stuff on the other side. Um, Versus, I've had some lathe jobs where my cycle time is measured in seconds, and you hit cycle start and you're deburring a part, cleaning it off, and by the time you've set it down, the machine dings and you got another part you got to grab off, and when you're doing that, those days kind of get really repetitive and aren't as fun. But it's still nice to be busy and have stuff to do. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Go back and forth.
I I don't know. Right now I am just kind of wishing that I had production work to do. Cuz
Yeah.
right now everything I need to do that's important is like creative computer work.
Mm-hmm.
And like I it can be very difficult for me to just focus on that. Because it's not like, like here's a clear cut thing, go do this thing, here are the 5 different steps. It's like, okay, well, now I have to figure out how to make a video. How do I make a video interesting? How do I make it appeal to the right people?
Yeah.
And ooh, look, there's a part I can make, and then you go make the
Mm-hmm.
part instead of doing the creative work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the nice thing about doing part type stuff is that it's real easy to measure how productive you've been versus the
Hmm.
creative stuff. If I've sat there for 2 hours or 3 hours, standing in front of staring at a screen, trying to come up with an idea for something to make, was that productive? Was that not productive? I mean, you might have gone through a couple different design iterations in your head or sketched some few things out. And it just, because you don't have that tangible sense of, okay, I got this done in this amount of time, and there's metrics, known metrics for, was that a good day or a bad day? It's harder to do that on the creative side, where there are no real metrics. It's just, did you finish it?
Yep.
So
um so let's see, do you want to get into what you've done over this last week? Like what's been
yeah.
big in precision ingenuity? Give us a
So
recap.
we sent off some gun stands to get anodized, and this is a third guy. So in our whole anodizing saga, we've got another guy that we're trying out. His lead time was about a week, and he's already got them done and is going to be sending them back this week.
Nice.
And then we're kind of getting ready in preparation for a gun show we're going to try to go to on Friday through Sunday, this coming up weekend. And so if we can get those stands back in time, it'd be awesome to bring them there and kind of get people's opinions and see if any of them sell. Um, and then we have a local machine shop that has some work that they were getting hammered right now, which is good for them, and it's great for us because we're getting some of their overflow, and
Hmm.
so that means that we're getting busy. And they gave us some mill work and some lathe work, so that's what I was working on about Thursday, Friday last week with some of that stuff, and then today. Um, Although I found out that one of the parts they water jet cut some blanks out for us
Hmm.
to make these parts, and they made an error and cut the
Uh-oh.
part too short. And so it was the last part of the day. I was just getting it done. Which actually, I'll come back to this real quick. It was a 3 op part, and I did the first 2 ops. So there was 15 parts, and I was about to start the third op, and then I was going to be done for the day. And I go to run the first part, and the drill comes down, and it's like on the very edge of the part, and I'm like, "Whoa, that doesn't look right. Hang on, back up." Run over to the computer, look at the computer. Okay, that looks good over there. Run back over to the machine, check everything. Okay, that looks good there. and I go to run the part again. It's still doing this. I reload the program on the USB, run back over, plug it in. Still looks like it's going to be wonky. And I go and I finally measure one of the parts, and it's about 3/4 of an inch too short. It's like, man. So I message the shop, tell them what's going on, and they're going to have me new parts in the morning, new water jet blanks in the morning. But in this part, it has a 5/8 by 16 tapped hole.
Okay.
And what's the largest tap size you've run on your Tormach so far?
In the spindle, a 1/4 inch, 1/4 20.
Yeah. So this hole is so massive. I've done a 1/2 by 13, and actually I did a couple of these parts that had 1/2 by 13 and high belt, and the spindle would come almost to a complete stop, and it wouldn't lose any steps. Everything was still timed together, so I was very thankful of that. It actually surprised me because I thought I was going to break something, but the spindle would like almost come to a stop, and then it would just keep going. Like when it got to like the middle of it, it pushed through and pull out. I ran about 10 or 15 parts like that because it was just barely doing it.
No way.
Yeah, and that was in high belt. And then I switched over to low belt, and I ran a 3-flute spiral tap, 5/8 by 18,
Uh-huh.
in low belt, and it just powered through it.
Huh.
And I was very impressed with that.
What material and how deep?
It was 6061 aluminum, so not
Okay.
really like anything that's like steel or crazy. But and it was 3/4 of an inch thick through
Okay.
hole. But it was for the Tormach, it was the largest tap I've ever used, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I was pretty happy that it worked out as well as it did.
So I have some parts coming up that I'm running for day job, and there's 300 parts. They're all inch thick mild steel. With
Mm-hmm.
between the 300 parts, there are 200 holes that are either, or no, there's 400 holes because there's 100 more than there are parts. But they're either 1/2 inch, half 13 or whatever the standard is, or 3/4 10.
Okay. Yeah, those
And
are
I was
some
just going
big
to
ones.
thread mill them all.
Yeah.
I'm still going to thread mill them all.
Yeah. When you get up to anything over about a 1/2 inch, I wish I had some thread mills. I didn't have any on hand for this
Mm-hmm.
job, but I did have a 5/8 by 18 that I had used in the lathe, and that thing's got a 20 horse motor over a
Yeah.
2 horse, so that's a couple extra. So it didn't struggle with that at all. But the Tormach did do it in low belt, so I was happy with that.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Um, and then ran our first Delrin parts on the lathe, which was pretty interesting. That one brought up a whole plastic. Have you run much plastic?
Some.
Plastic on a lathe is very weird. You could run the same program um, like 3 or 4 times, and you get different
Yeah.
results every time you run because the material just moves in weird ways. And my cousin was running it on the lathe, and he was boring it out. It was a very thin Delrin bushing, and it's like a less than an 1/8 inch all the way around it. I think it was, what was it, like 70 thou thick on the outer, and then the OD of it was a little over an inch. It's like an inch and a quarter ish OD with a I don't know, whatever the ID would be with the measurement. I didn't get all the measurements. Anyways, that's irrelevant. What's relevant is that when he bored it out and then he came in, and when he bored it out and he measured it afterwards, one side was about 10 thou thicker than the other side. So it was like it was oblong. Ran the
Yeah.
exact same program again, and it came out perfect. Like no changes, just advanced material forward, and ran it again. And he hasn't had any other problems since. But for about 30 minutes, he was bashing his head against the wall this afternoon, trying to figure out what is going on. Because the first few were just coming out all sorts of wonky. But plastics can be annoying at times.
Yep.
It can be good because you can go fast in it, but it's also can get messy and just it doesn't it moves so much compared
Mhm.
to metal. So, but
Anything else this
any
week?
anything else? I did get this design job down in Florida.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so have you ever used Upwork?
I have, yes, a
Have you
while
have
ago,
you
a
ever?
long time ago.
So we've used it some for getting some design work done, like our logo. We had some used Upwork to help out with our website some, which we actually just got revamped through Upwork,
Cool.
which was nice. And then we decided to go ahead and log on and see if we could get any CNC jobs. And I've actually got one or two through Upwork. Not nearly as much as you can find in other places, but every once in a while you'll find someone that's like, "Hey, can someone machine parts like this?" And it's like, "Yeah." And so I was on there and I found a guy. Well, the guy found me. He had some design work and he reached out to me, and so I'm going to be starting on that. And he's designing. I don't know if I should say much on it though. It's the weird thing. Like I could tell you some about it, but I don't know. I know with Zometry you're not supposed to tell any stuff, but on
Yeah.
Upwork it's a lot more like your client to. Anyways, I won't go into too much detail, but it's basically a scale to measure stuff, and and he's got this prototype that he built out of wood, and so he wants me to design it for sheet metal construction. So it's very similar to what I did at my old job. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. It looks like it'll be a fun project. So
Sweet.
so I got that. We got the gun show. Um, I got a bunch of parts coming in from Overflow from the machine shop. That pretty much ties up my week. And then I'm still teaching classes in the evening, 2 nights a week. So last week was my first week to teach class at my local college, which was fun. I have 8 students there, 7 boys, 1 girl. And it's funny because all of them except for one don't really know anything about the world of manufacturing. And like one of the first questions I got was, "What is CNC? What does it mean?" And it's like, well, you're in the right class. This is Intro to CNC, um, and so they're. It's going to be an interesting semester. I have grand plans for what I want to do, but I'm very bad about getting that stuff onto paperwork and actually structuring it. So I'm very um, spontaneous in the classroom where it's like, okay, do you guys have any questions? Crickets. Okay, well, in that case, let's do this. And so I just started off on a path, and I had them draw up some soft jaws for their first project. And it was funny because one of the guys looked at it and he's like, "That's so easy." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's see how long it takes you to do it." And it ended up taking him almost the whole class period to get it done. So, but you can't blame them. I mean, this is a new experience for them. A lot of them haven't really used CAD CAM softwares, and so it'll just take them a little bit to get comfortable and get designing and programming.
So you're teaching CAD too.
Well, you kind of have to teach
Yeah.
CNC because
Well,
like
they
I
don't have a background in it though.
exactly. It's a lot easier, I think, to teach them the CAD CAM side of things because they're going to be engineers than it would be to teach them how to straight up G code it out, which is something that I haven't even personally really done. It's so much easier to go into Fusion 360 once you have a model and say, "Hey, do an adaptive clear of this area," than it is for you to be like, "Okay, here, write the G code to do this," or go on the machine and use visual programming to like build it out in blocks and whatnot. Um, which I've done a little bit on the Tormach in the very beginning stages, but I haven't really done it since.
Yeah. I had a I was actually making some soft jaws earlier this week, and it was like I just need a hole. That's all I need. I need a round hole in this part, and I could do this with the Path Pilot conversational. But honestly, it'll take me longer to figure out the conversational than it will just to do it in Fusion. So I just did it in Fusion.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we always, whenever we're doing soft jaws or anything like that, we always like the only time I don't really write a program is if I'm facing something, and then I will just go in there and manually jog and treat it like a manual machine and just jog it back and forth and face a part off. But most part, I pretty much model and CAD cam everything.
Yep, that's how I am.
So now I've noticed that some of your videos are kind of lagging behind your Instagram
That
now.
is, yes. So originally I was like, okay, I'm going to do an intentional lag of a couple days so that I can, edit a couple, like I have a couple videos on YouTube uploaded, scheduled, ready to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I like ate up my margin once and now I'm still editing a video the night before I post it. And it's basically just outdated because I've, sat on the footage for 4 days. At least. I think I actually even missed a video or two, so now I'm farther behind. So it's like 5 or 6 days of lag.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I mean is still fine. Like everything's still happening in real time with just a delay on it. Like it doesn't affect the
Mm-hmm.
storytelling at all. But the problem is I'm getting ready to launch a Kickstarter. And
Yep.
I kind of want to like the Kickstarter is launching at a specific time in like the real world for everybody. But like I
Mm-hmm.
don't want the video that's like, hey, I launched a Kickstarter to come a week into the campaign.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I may need to do like a super edit of just like 5 videos all together.
Now, you're trying to do a video a day?
I am doing a video a day. I think I've done it for almost a month straight,
Okay,
except for like 2 days where I missed one.
but you're not releasing a video a day.
No, I'm releasing a video a day.
Oh, okay. Well, you just said you were getting behind, so I was just trying to
So
figure out.
there have been times where I've released a video that is not a daily vlog.
Mm-hmm.
Such as last time when we recorded this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I used that as one of my daily videos.
Mm-hmm.
And like one time I had a conversation with Infinite Craftsman, and I counted that as a video, so that
That,
put me a couple more days behind.
okay. I guess our terminology is a little bit. That's what I was referring to. Like you're getting like your daily videos, like a day 14, 15, 16, 17. Those are starting to get more and more behind because you're releasing other stuff. So if you're
Yes.
releasing a video a day, you put the stuff like what we're doing right now or other stuff in there that's not one of your days, then that just slowly kicks that can down the road. Um, have you thought about doing less or not doing one every day, like every other day or once a week?
I am committed to doing one a day up through the Kickstarter, up until it
Okay.
starts. Um, I need to sit down and reevaluate how I'm doing this. I definitely still want to do videos at a higher tempo than any other machining channel. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
one of my goals with this channel is like, this old Tony puts out great videos once
Mm-hmm.
every 3 months or whatever. Tom
Yeah.
Just Machine Works, a great video once a week. John Grimsmo, a great video sometimes
Yeah.
um, on no schedule. And so it's like, well, my niche is going to be, you know, I'll have all the content for all the people who need all the content.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to keep doing that. But at the same time, it's also a major time suck
Yes.
and
Yeah.
kind of a creativity suck too. Cause it's like all of my brain power is going into these videos when I could be doing it on things that are more beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you do a really good job of keeping a good presence online, and maybe instead of trying to do like on your Instagram, you always have your stories that you're always posting um, on those like those. I don't know what Instagram calls it. Is it just the storyboard or is the
Stories.
story?
Yeah.
Yeah, stories. So you're always posting stuff like that. And if you could find a way to do that on, which I'm imagining that's what you're trying to do with your YouTube videos, is kind of what you're doing with your Instagram stories. It's just kind of do a daily video. Um, but you can post those in addition to your longer form content, so it doesn't get behind.
Yeah. And I used to do many, many, many more Instagram stories and posts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I am doing way less on Instagram lately so that I can do more YouTube, because I see
Mm-hmm.
YouTube as being more of the future than Instagram. I think Instagram's kind of going downhill.
Oh, really?
Um,
That's
yes.
interesting because I have a close friend who does YouTube, and he's a couple houses down, and he said that YouTube is kind of going down for him. He's just noticed it across the board that everything is just kind of views in general are going down as things like TikTok gets more important, as things like TikTok grow in popularity.
I mean, from what I've heard from other creators, it's too hard to judge from my stuff. It's all pretty flatline,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm not, I don't have a million people to really get a good sample.
Yeah.
But from what I have heard from other creators, is YouTube is only going up, and it's still growing like crazy, and just like it's I don't know, maybe like there's more competition now, but there's also a lot
Mm-hmm.
more eyeballs on YouTube than there ever has been before.
That's
Um,
an interesting perspective.
Now the like level of quality, like the minimum acceptable quality on YouTube has gone up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I'm probably like I'm way below the bar. Like I don't have like at this point I've even just stopped making thumbnails, and like you have to make good thumbnails if you want to get people to see your
Mm.
stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm not. But for
So
a
so
long
let's
time I sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, so taking a step back from a high level perspective, what is your goal with your YouTube channel? Is it to provide a particular type of content for a consumer? Is it to try to get your brand out there? Is it to try to be helpful or just share your story? Like, do you have an overarching, like, what is the goal of your YouTube channel? Because if you have like a focus, um, then usually those channels that try to focus in on one thing, which this kind of goes back into our business, and my business is not focusing on anything right now, but but for YouTube, do you have a focus for it?
Yeah, so there's kind of a I kind of have a focus that is also separate but just as important as a goal, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of Design the Everything stated values, we have written out formal values.
Mm-hmm.
One of our stated values is we move manufacturing forwards by trying things that others will not, sharing our journey, inspiring and equipping others, and fostering community. And the like my like the focus of the YouTube channel is telling Design the Everything story.
Okay.
And that also is a useful marketing tool because it adds value to the products that I make, and then also helps people find me. But like my more real goal behind it is to fulfill that value that I just said. I want to build a community with people, and I want to be transparent in what I'm doing so people can look at me and go, okay, that's either a great idea and I'm going to do the same, or that's terrible, why would you ever do it that way? I'm not going to do it that way. um in addition to also just some like basic education stuff, which I have not done in a very long time, but
Okay.
I kind of want to do all those things.
So when in building the community, are you hoping to get a lot of feedback on comment sections, or how would someone interact with your YouTube content in a way that you could respond back to them?
I mean, there's always comments. That is harder on YouTube. It's more that like YouTube is one method of communicating with the community. And like I am constantly on Instagram talking to people. Like people send me messages, and I chat with them all the time. We're doing this podcast so people can hear about our businesses and like, building
Mm-hmm.
community with you. Um, and then also it is not nearly as big as I would like yet. And I should get you an invite to this, but also there's like the Design the Everything Discord,
Oh yeah,
um,
that'd be good.
which is paywalled. Sorry, everybody. But if you're a Patreon, you get to, directly contact me, and, we can set up a fusion class if you want to do a fusion class. People are getting, my Patreons are getting some of my prototypes every month. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of the deal. And, they get to give me feedback on those. And this is basically just a hidden plug for Patreon. Join Patreon. Um,
Well, we
but
might have to
no, the
talk about
communities
that some too, about
talk
your
about Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah, because I've wondered about that, like, because it's an interesting idea to have people that are paying for you to develop products, and then you give them the prototypes and you can get good feedback. That sounds like a really interesting idea that I've thought a little bit about, but I don't even know if that'd be worth doing or if people would even be interested in it. But you're kind of working through that right now.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen another product company do that. Somebody's got to have done it, I'm sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it has been incredibly helpful. Just having a group of people that I can bounce stuff off of, both on the Discord and like literally sending them something and be like, give me your impressions of these.
Mm-hmm.
I found a flaw with some of my powder coating that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, long story short, I wasn't doing a good job sandblasting it, and like the powder failed on one of those powder coated or one of those prototypes I sent to somebody, and it was
Oh.
like, oh, good to know. And he sent it back to me, and I got to like play with scraping it off, and I sent him back a different one. Like I would never have found that on my own,
That's
and
cool.
like one of the products I like that I wanted to do was a key ring. And so I
Mm-hmm.
made some just laser cut key rings. They're just like basically an odd round shape with just like one little slit so you can put a key on there. And I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
these are kind of cool. They're fine. Like they're gonna be thrown in with my other products just so that they can have key rings with them. And then the Discord was like, oh my gosh, these are the best things we've ever used. And like they were a huge hit. And so I've gone through a couple iterations now with those, and like those are probably going to be a more major product once I get them rolled out. It's like they're like I would never have seen the value in them.
That is true. It's interesting how products that you can spend a whole lot of time on just stumble and fall, and then like
Yeah.
something that you just design just like in 5 seconds, just because you're like, oh, I'll just throw this in here, and that's what everyone registers with. Like, there's that's something that I struggle with for sure is trying to figure out what would be a good product that everyone would like, and I don't have that community of people currently that give me good feedback. About the only feedback we've had on anything has been through our Kickstarter and through the first few people
Mm.
that we sent out those boxes to. And it's interesting. That's one of those interesting products that, like, when you show people photos of it or videos of it, they go, "Oh, that's kind of cool." But when you get it in people's hands and they actually physically hold it and look at it, they go, "This is the best thing
Yep.
that I've ever seen." Like the quality in it, like it's like I've never really had anything like that because most of the boxes and things that you get are usually injection molded or stamped out. And so having something that's machined like that, if someone hasn't experienced that type of quality in their normal consumer products, when they get something like that, it just blows their mind.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to convey that to someone through a photo or a video.
Yeah. I no, that's a real problem. I remember gosh, a couple of years ago now, Design the Everything did a leather wallet in collaboration with a leather worker. And it was actually like a really nice wallet. But like especially back then, we weren't as good at product photography. We weren't as good at the marketing and storytelling. And like, it was a great wallet. Like, it just fit in your pocket really well. It was very compact. It was easy to get stuff in and out of it, but we couldn't sell them. And that was
Mm-hmm.
our only Kickstarter that failed. And
Oh,
it, like, and the leatherworking guy that we were working with was like, yeah, that's kind of how leather is. You can't sell it on the internet, but once somebody touches it, they get it.
interesting. Yeah, that's a hard thing to do. There are some products that I've seen on Kickstarter that are like around that quality heavy, and some of them, I don't know if it's just the type of photography they take or how they do it, but some of them, excuse me, do a better job at others, and it just comes through, and they're wildly successful. So there's got to be a way to convey that somehow. Um, but that's probably more of the artistic side of things that I'm personally not very good at.
One of the one of my goals with this Kickstarter was trying to convey just like the feel of squishing the carabiner and
Mm-hmm.
trying to get people to understand that like it's a very tactile, like kind of a fun thing to do. And that is what started the whole building a testing robot thing. Is
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a GIF of just the robot going push, push,
Mm-hmm.
push, because I knew it would be just a very satisfying thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And fun fact, that post, the first post I did of that robot on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
went crazy. I picked up 200 followers in like 2 days.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my.
it hit that just like perfect, oddly satisfying. Uh,
Yeah.
Not niche, but yeah,
Huh. Yeah. If you can put out one of those like oddly satisfying videos, they do really well. Like that gives me an idea for something I could have done on the Kickstarter for our deck defenders because it's got that magnetic lid. If
mm-hmm.
you had a video and you played it in reverse, but you filmed it where you dropped the box and it fell and split into two, and then you played it in reverse where they come together and then fall go into your hand,
Yeah.
like that could have
Even
been.
even if you had a close up like of the rim of the box, and you
Mm-hmm.
just like dropped the lid down and then picked it up, and then dropped it
Mm-hmm.
down and then picked it up, and like
Yeah.
especially if you had the like aluminum clicky sucky magnet noise
Mm-hmm.
in there, like
Yeah.
that would have hit that.
Yeah, and or like if you held it up, I mean, if you hold it upside down and get to it, it'll suck it up to it. So
Yeah, that would have
it's
been
got some
good.
good pull too. Um, yeah, there's marketing is such an interesting thing. It you can find the right buttons, it just opens all these kinds of crazy doors, and it's one of those things that you want to convey. You want to be as open, and at least if you're a good person that actually cares about their customers, you want to be you want to try to present yourself in a way that is truthful and honest, but you also want to convey it in such a way that gets people excited about it. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't know about for you, but for me, clickbaiting ideas versus ideas that fully convey everything. Um, Sometimes I struggle with that personally because I'm so direct in my normal way of thinking that I don't like relying on gimmicks as much to try to sell stuff,
Mm-hmm.
even though that stuff registers with more people and gets more people interested in it. I don't know. What's your thought on like clickbaity stuff to like in the honesty and the tacky way of marketing?
Well, starting off, you need 100% honesty.
Yeah.
I I don't think there is any room for any sort of deception about a product that you're selling at all, like of any type. Um, but I do think some sort of like mental hook, something to be knowledge or not knowledgeable, something to be memorable is incredibly important. Um, we are bombarded by so many products all the time, constantly, so much advertising that like it's all just
Mm-hmm.
faded away to just white noise. And so you need something to actually make people look at it.
Mm-hmm.
um and like my buddy Tom, who just did the Frog Pod Kickstarter, he had this fantastic hook of just throwing the Frog Pod, which is a magnetic camera mount, at metal things and yelling Frog Pod.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the best thing ever because one, it was funny to watch and like very visually interesting. But then he started sending the frog pod out into the hands of others, and it became a like a joke or a meme. And so his beta testers, including myself, would be throwing his frog pod things, going frog pod, and we all thought it was hilarious. So we posted it, all over social media, which just got him, more and more interest. And like I don't think he really designed that in, but like it was a genius move to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I just don't know how I
Um,
could apply it to my particular product.
so the so I've been writing out like the design the everything design process, the design everything process.
Mm-hmm.
And I have kind of rearranged it, and I have not actually designed a product following this process yet because it's new. But now the like number 2 thing on that list is come up with I think I call it a memeable idea, a shareable idea for that product. So if I'm going from now on, if I'm going to design and sell a product, I need something that is, visually and just like mentally interesting to people and grabs their attention. Otherwise, there's no reason for me to make it into a product.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Hmm. See, I think the card cases, I think there's so much potential around them because they can be personalized in so many different ways. You got so many different colors. We got the fiber laser now, so people can put names, photos, logos, all sorts of kind of crazy stuff on them. Uh, we can change their size, which we haven't really done much, to fit other types of cards out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't know how I could make that memeable.
Yeah.
Like I don't really want people taking my uh, machined aluminum playing card case and throwing it against the wall and going deck defender.
That would actually be great. Or you do the infomercial, like running it over with a car, and like, I guess it's not waterproof, I assume, so you probably wouldn't want to put it in a fish tank. But
yeah, it was more designed out of the I used to carry a deck of cards with me all the time in college, and the tuck case would just get destroyed over time, and then the cards are just falling all over the place. And I just thought it'd be cool to have something that you could throw in a backpack or in a pocket
mm-hmm.
and carry with you on a daily basis that wouldn't really wear out like a tuck case does. That's kind of the initial quote unquote problem that we were trying to solve. Um, and then I just thought you could make it your own and add your own expression to it by different colors and different patterns and things. And like, I don't know if you've ever seen like some of these crazy anodizers out there that do all the multicolors and like they'll make it look like it's like a galaxy or something where it's like got all these rich dark blues and purples with some bright splotches in it, or like the 90s look where it's kind of got that like techno bright neon color look. Like there's some really cool stuff that some of these anodizers have done on Instagram that I was like, man, it'd be so cool to do that with our boxes. It's just that a lot of those guys, I don't know if you've ever looked into pricing on some of those stuff, but they're expensive. Like they'll basically almost double the price on our playing card case, and it's like, man, I'd love to go down that route, but I don't know if people would be interested in us taking it that way if it cost that much more to go that way. So I don't know. Decisions. I guess this is the nice thing about having like a Patreon where you can kind of bounce these ideas off of people, because I don't have as many people that I can bounce this off of. And when you try to reach out to I've reached out to some guys on the Kickstarter, and they've given me some great feedback, but I kind of got to reach out to them one by one. I don't like have like a mailing list of people that I can be like, here's some of my ideas. What do you think?
Yeah. Which I guess I literally have a mailing list now too.
Yeah.
Do you get my stickers? The Sticker of the Month Club?
I don't
Do you know about the Sticker of the Month Club?
I think I remember seeing a post or two about it, but I haven't looked into it that much. Honestly, I've been so busy I haven't looked into a lot of stuff. But what is it?
So that was my method of doing a newsletter and making it shareable and like memeable. Mm-hmm. I have a thing that I call Free Sticker of the Month Club, and like you just go to www.freestickerofthemonth.club, put in your mailing information, and then once a month I send you a free sticker and a like written out newsletter. over Design the Everything.
Oh.
Um, and that's been interesting too. It's not exactly profitable because like I'm literally paying for stamps and stickers, and
Hmm.
I've had stickers professionally designed just for this, so like it's not free. But I've gotten a good response, and people love to share it when they get their stickers.
Yeah, stickers are a whole big thing out in the world these days.
Yep,
We got
I love
some. We got
stickers.
Yeah, we got some stickers for our stuff, but we've only gotten like two, so we haven't done very many.
Yeah, and I mean I do way more stickers than probably anybody else because the stickers aren't all Design the Everything stickers. Like this last one literally just said Sticker of the Month Club, and it was this really cool hand drawn art of someone posting a sticker.
Oh, okay. So it's a
That was
sticker of
like,
someone posting a sticker.
yes, that was the like, I'm calling that the first official month of it.
Gotcha.
But then also Send Cut Send sent me some stickers. So they sponsored it. They didn't actually pay me anything, but they gave me some stickers. And so I wrote a blurb in there about them.
Cool.
Um,
Hmm. Man, I think
so,
that's.
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I think that's about all I got for this last week. What else do you got?
So for my week, I'm gonna get this all out of order because again, my weeks are broken into like 4 separate smaller weeks. The What I think is the most exciting thing to me, the most fun thing, was I made a bunch of meeples using a semi-automated method on my machine without any automation equipment.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, do you know what a meeple is?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay. So a meeple is a kind of generic term for a like person shaped game piece.
Okay.
They are very common in a lot of the more complicated board games, like anything that's like Settlers of Catan or more than that, if you're familiar with that type of game. And they're, I mean,
Sorry
so
for the sorry for the cat noises if you can hear that.
yeah, it's fine. I'm trying to think about how to describe these for the audio listening people. So in this case, mine is a little metal person. They're very simplistic. It's about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch tall, maybe 7/8 or so tall. And it's just like a simplification of a person. There are there's like one main meeple design that everybody uses that's just like a jelly bean part that these board game companies buy off of Alibaba, and like 1,000 different companies make the exact same meeple design, and they are always made out of wood. There's some people that make like resin cast ones. um
Mhm.
there's one company that is claiming that they make metal ones, but I believe they are plated wood or resin. um I'll send you a link to them. They just look so incredibly abused. Like the surface finish on them is rough, and they're either like laser cutting them and then beating them on a hammer, like with a hammer on the road or something, or it's like actually just wood that is plated.
Gotcha.
But
So one thing that comes to mind if you were trying to mass produce those out of metal is I talked to a guy at Mighty Bite about how they make their Mighty Bites, and they you can buy you can get molds where they get extruded metal,
mhm,
and then you can just slice them up. So you could get that profile made out of extruded metal, buy it in bar form, and then just lop them off.
that's true. I didn't even consider that, but yeah, that would be the cheapest way. And I think that's basically how they make the wood ones. Is I think they start with a you know 5 foot long section or whatever, 8 foot long section, and then run them through like some shapers, the wood version of a shaper, which is basically just a fancy or a really powerful router table, and
Mm-hmm.
they make these long profiles, and then they just slice them up. Um, but so I do plan on selling these. I think they'll actually sell fairly well. But these were testing a different method of making them, and
Mm-hmm.
I have 20 in my hands here.
Oh my.
Um, and the way I made these is I clamped a piece of 1 inch bar stock straight vertical on my table, so it's sticking up parallel with the z-axis.
Mm-hmm.
And then I machined out the profile, finished it and everything, and um, then parted it off with a slitting saw. And then I
Mm-hmm.
went back and machined down the next one and parted it with a slitting saw and machined and parted.
Mm-hmm.
And out of like a 4 inch rod, I was getting 10 of them, which was taking about 40 minutes. But with no human interaction at all.
Yep.
They just ran, except for some minor machine issues, which we can address. But it worked shockingly well. And these are a test piece for, like, I wanted to test that manufacturing process for moving into carabiners, is I want to make some very small carabiners, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that'll be an efficient manner of doing it. And this, I mean, like the process was flawless. Like it worked really well. The biggest
What's this when you do the slitting saw? What's the slitting saw face look like compared to your facing face?
So after the first one, all the faces are slitting sawed because
Oh, okay.
the slitting saws finishes the top face of
And
the bottom one and then the bottom face of the top one, if that makes sense.
gotcha.
It When I first looked at it, I was like, "Oh, that looks really bad. It must be rough, and then chattery." But I I think it was mostly just optically rough. Like the pattern of grooves on it was not what we're used to from a
Mm-hmm.
like side cutting on an end mill. And with just one or two strokes on 1,000 grit sandpaper, it does clean all of the machining marks off. So it's very flat. It's just not very pretty.
Okay,
Um,
that's good to know. Could you just put a bunch of them in a tumbler and let them just go for a couple hours, and you'd be fine?
that is my plan because I don't have any chamfers or fillets or anything on the top and bottom of these, and so they are rather crisp. And so I'm gonna tumble them.
No, that's a good idea.
Um, but I figure I can sell probably 10 of these for $25. Um, which
I
with my
like
current
it.
method is an hour of machine time, which is probably not enough. I think I need to be faster still. So that's
Yeah,
only
I think you can
$25
get
for the machine.
faster. What's taking so long if you're not finishing any of the sides and are you just profiling the outside and then using the slitting saw?
Yes. Um, so my issue is that I have a 4 inch long piece of stock sticking straight up out of a mod vise,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be kind of gentle on the feeds and speeds. I had to back them off a lot. And
Chatter.
I think the way to do it is instead of using one round bar, where you can only get one off at a time anyway, I need to move to a piece of rectangular bar, which will be much, much more rigid, and just kind of line them up like that,
Yeah.
or like going horizontally across in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can come back and slit those all off at once. And that'll be a lot less tool changes because I'll be able to get like 10 off, for every tool change of each tool instead of one
Mm-hmm.
off. And it'll be more rigid so I can push those speeds and feeds.
I like it.
So,
That sounds like that'll work.
yeah.
What's the
And
smallest end mill you use on those? Is it a 32nd or a 16th?
it is an 1/8 inch.
1/8 inch, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot bigger.
They were designed to all be done with an 1/8 inch tool. Um, I That's one of the reasons why I designed my own Meeple profile. Besides just being different and also not wanting to, worry about copyright infringement and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is designed to actually look like a person when cut with an 1/8 inch tool. If you cut the normal Meeple with an 1/8 inch tool, like if it has some sharp inside corners, and it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of looks like a blob. Um, and like you would need probably a 32nd inch tool to make it look good. But this, looks like a person with,
Yeah. Yeah, that looks good.
so
Um, what about colors? Are you planning on adding any colors to those?
they really probably do need color, but One, if I like just powder coat them, they're gonna look like every other meeple in existence. And you're not gonna be able to tell the difference between the wood ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Two, like I don't know how I would hold them for coloring them. Like
Yeah.
I need to, clip on my powder coat lead, or even with like Cerakote, then you're dealing with like spraying them and flipping them over and spraying the other side, which is a really finicky process with Cerakote.
So with powder coat, you were doing powder coat on your trays, right?
Yes.
Do you
Or
have
actually, no, I'm sorry. Correction. No, I was doing Cerakote. I had not done powder coat at that point. I've done some powder coated trays, but the majority of them have been Cerakoted.
so are you powder coating your trays now going forward, or are you going to do Cerakote?
Yes, my modern trays are powder coated, and I have some for sale, but they have not been selling like they used to.
Do they have do you have points on them that don't get powder coated on the bottom side?
I, I drill a hole in the bottom side that I can use to stick a hanging rod through.
Okay. Does that hole just stay there at the final product? Or is it just something that
Yep,
is on
there's
the
just a
bottom
hole in the
side? So,
bottom of the tray or in the back of the tray. You can't see
gotcha.
it from the top.
Gotcha. Hmm.
So with the meatballs, I mean, basically the only way to do it would be to drill a little tiny hole in their crotch,
Mm-hmm.
so that you could put them on a wire. I don't know. There's probably a method that people use to do this, but and
Yeah.
actually, same thing for anodizing. I couldn't anodize them without some way of making a solid electrical connection.
Well, with anodizing, you can get like these fingers that come to like a really 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 sharp point,
Hmm.
and then they're almost imperceptible, especially if you grab them like in the
Really?
on the inside of a radius, like
Yeah.
in the center. You wouldn't notice them. Just like you could see it if you like looked at them hard. Um, but I've had stuff anodized that like if you, unless you're like looking really hard, you won't see where they were actually holding it because they're just you just need to make an electrical connection, and it doesn't need to be over a wide area, and it can be over a really tiny area, and so you can just basically grab it with like two needles on either end, and then if you can hold it like that, then you can anodize it, and it looks fine.
I wonder if I could do that with powder coat. I wonder if I could get the same things.
Yeah, that's what I was want. That was going to be my next question. Was like when you're doing the trays, did you have like some sort of needles that you could grab it with that would allow you to not have to drill anything or make it where it was really hard to tell that where you were holding it from?
Interesting. Yeah, I might have to look into that.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
then like if another question is when you powder coat something, can you add another layer once you're done with it? Like can you
yes.
layer powder coats?
You have to do it before it's all the way cured, but yes.
Okay. Oh, so okay, you can't cure it and then see, what I was wondering is like, could you powder coat it, and then if you had like a little area that you needed to fill, could you put some powder in that and then recure it, and then would that all blend together?
You would have to you powder coat it, you put it in the oven for half of the normal cure time, you take it out, you let it cool down, then you repowder coat it. So like
Okay,
effectively yes, but
gotcha. It's
it's
just a
just an
lot more
extra step
work.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
For my carabiners, ooh, I should order this. But for my carabiners, I'm going to clear coat them. So they're going to be powder coated and then covered over with a clear powder coat.
How are you going to hold them if you're worried about because the carabiner, there's not really a side that's not going to get seen, even the insides.
With the carabiner, I just use a thin wire to hang them on. And like, yeah, there is going to be a blemish, but it's on the inside of one of those 1/8 inch pockets, and it's not a
Mm-hmm.
big deal.
Yeah. If you could find a way to get some needles where you're pressing out or pressing in inside one of those slots, then you could
That would
maybe
be
even make
better.
it to where even smaller.
Yeah.
So like whenever I did let's see here. Let's see if I have a photo on my phone. Which people that are listening on the audio side, they're not going to be able to see this. So sorry. Um, but when I made this adapter, this muzzle adapter here, um,
Uh-huh.
so this one is the one I made, and you can see it here. I just held it with some really thin wire on the inside, and you can't even see. I don't have any good photos that show the inside of it, but where I held it, you can't see any of the Cerakote. Like you can't see any limbs anywhere. So
Okay. Anyway, so I made those, and I just had a blast doing it. Honestly, that was some of the most fun I've had in a long time.
yeah.
I did have some like random minor machine issues though.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, and this one is the most straightforward one, is my ATC started missing tool changes. Like
That
it would
happened to
try to
me
tool
today.
change and then be like, no, I'm not lined up right, and it would stop. Then it would try to tool change again and go, no, I'm not lined up, and do that again. And then after it does it 3 times, and it alarms out. Um,
So I had something that was probably slightly worse than that.
okay.
It, it would grab, um, and but it wouldn't be fully seated. And this was doing it on my tap, and it scared the jeebus out of me the first time it happened. But basically, it was halfway in the socket, halfway out, and then when it would go in to tap the hole, you'd hear this loud bang as it would engage with the dogs all of a sudden, or not the dogs,
Oh,
but it would get sucked into it because as it got pushed down, because it was
yeah.
grabbing it on that perfectly on that pull stud where it wasn't engaged, it wasn't pulling it in, but it was holding it from falling out. So it was like grabbing on that perfect spot, and then when it would come down and try to tap, it would push it up and it would just pop in. Oh man, the first time it did it, I thought I busted a tap. Scared. And then you can't feed hold or emergency stop in the middle of it because then you for sure will break something. So you have to let it
Yes.
run all the way down and pray that it backs out all in one piece. Um, and thankfully, I didn't break any taps, but I found that you know how you can adjust the angle. Like you got the one
Yes.
screw and then you got the two screws in the back and you can adjust the angle. I found that over time mine tends to like
Hmm.
slowly bend down, and so I just loosened those screws and tapped it and raised it back up, and I haven't had any issues
That's good to
since.
know.
I've had to do
I
that 2 or 3 times now, and I
I
tighten those
tried.
things down. So
Yeah. I tried a couple things troubleshooting. I did the you can run an encoder test on your spindle. I started by doing that, and then you can realign like where the spindle is when it goes in,
mhm.
like the spindle orientation for the tool change, and that didn't work. And what it ended up being was backlash in the ATC. And there is literally just a button on the ATC page that says like plus plus minus minus, and I hit the plus plus button twice and never had an issue again with it.
Yeah,
So it was very
yep.
confusing and very frustrating for like an hour, and then it was like, oh look, it's perfect now.
That was part of the steps for the initial setup. How'd you set yours up?
Um, I don't
Did
know.
you
I followed
did
the
just
instructions.
Oh, okay. Maybe I
It must
gotta.
have just drifted or something, or
Oh, that could be. Yeah,
I don't know.
interesting. Yeah,
Or I just
I've had some interesting problems with the ATC as I use it more and more. Things don't seem to always stay where they're supposed to stay. So, but I wouldn't go to a machine without an ATC.
yes.
Like once you get used to that ATC, it's like never again. I am not going back to manually loading in these tools because
Yep.
it's like you think you're faster or just as fast as the ATC, and you might be, but you're stuck in front of that machine.
Yes.
And the one time that you're gone away from that machine for more than 5 minutes, the ATC is way outpaced you. Like it might take 20 seconds per tool change, and let's say you could do it in 10 if you're manually doing it, but mm-mm. No,
Yep.
in the long run, you're losing out.
Okay, but here's the more interesting thing that happened. So so I had these bars sticking straight up off the table, aluminum bars, 4 inches long. On the third meeple down, every single time when I ran the slitting saw, my machine would stop with the slitting saw in the cut, which was also terrifying. and give me an error that the tool probe was triggered in while running during a movement.
Okay. That's weird.
And it's weird. And it was the third meeple down every time. And it was like, what is going on?
Was it in the same location?
Same location. Turns out the third meeple down with the slitting saw is some sort of resonance frequency. And it actually triggers my tool probe on. Only the third meeple down.
Weird.
It
That's
was
cool that
so
it's
weird.
consistent. Like, that's
So
kind of cool.
I was able to recreate it by banging on the table with a hammer as I jogged the machine. And if you kind of just did it right, you could get it to recreate it where it would alarm out the machine for, tool probe trigger during movement. And I like, it was just bizarre. And I didn't really figure it out until like today. And my solution is really simple. I just unplugged the tool probe and I put a piece of foam on top of it so that I know not to run it without plugging it back in again.
Yeah.
But that stumped me for a long time.
Now, did you got your tool probe re-zeroed, and that made a big difference? The last time
No,
we talked about it last week, you were.
So there's the touch probe. So the tool probe.
No, not the tool probe. The touch probe.
Sorry, I should be saying the tool setter. That's a more clear term. Yes, the touch probe. I spent half an hour re-zeroing it, and it's like perfect now. It's awesome.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference.
The only problem is I thought I was smart by using a paint marker to mark which side of the spindle was the side that I had to line up on the probe, and that wore off. So now I don't know which orientation to put it in.
Yeah. That's like, I went in there with the Sharpie and I would just cover the whole thing, the whole dog bone. And I could always kind of see it even as it started to fade. And then as I'd go back and remark it, and I got tired of doing that. So I just took like a file and just lightly rubbed it against one of the dog bone faces. And that's what I use to align it now.
I will be doing that next.
Now, one thing I will say is that I have noticed that, and I wondered this whenever I got the ATC, but I believe that the ATC always grabs it in the same dog bone orientation.
It does.
Like, I always wondered if it was going to be one orientation or another. So if you know which orientation it's coming out of a tool change, then you don't technically need, if you're like storing a tool and then putting in the touch probe next, and you know which dog bone orientation is going to be in that, then you technically don't need any indicators on your dog bone. It only started noticing it more. I only noticed that later on when I started to insert I'd put a tool away and then put in my touch probe, because you don't really have a manual way to, or an automated way to put it in the ATC because it's got that cable. But every time I'd stick it in there, I'd always just twist the dog bones 90 degrees, and it was always that outer face was the one that I have scratched. So I always know that whenever I do a tool change and I want to put a tool away and put in my probe, it's just shove it in, rotate it 90, and I'm good.
Yeah. I'll mark mine with a file like you did. Let's see. I almost missed something important. I finally got flood coolant hooked up.
Oh, nice.
I've had all the parts for a really long time, like ever since I got the machine. But I just now installed them.
Now, do you have a quarter horse or an eighth horse pump?
I got the quarter horse motor. That was the whole reason I pieced it together myself instead of buying the Tormach one.
You're gonna have to let me know how that one does, because we got the Tormach one, the eighth horse, and it gets the job done, but it's definitely a little on the anemic side.
The quarter horse is at least twice as good.
Yeah, it's gonna be at least twice as good for sure. Yeah, that'll be good. We did install, speaking of pumps, we did install a one-wave check valve in ours because we found that when we shut it off, or when the coolant would shut off to do a tool change, the coolant would basically backpedal all the way down to the pump, and then when you turn it on, the tool would start cutting before the coolant got to it.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and so we stuck a one-way check valve in there. That way, when it shut off, it wouldn't flush all the way down to the pump. And it only
I
got
actually,
worse. Huh?
sorry, I was gonna say I actually have a check valve that I just haven't put in yet.
Yeah. It actually got
Did you put
worse
yours in?
when we got the filter because it would also drain the filter housing, and so that just
Oh,
made it even
yeah.
longer.
Is your check valve at the top of your system towards the nozzles, or at the bottom of your system?
It's in the middle. It's
Okay.
right. It's right at the filter, and the filter is about halfway between the where your tools normally sit and your spindle and the bottom of the machine. So
I specifically got a check valve that was a like spring loaded, no, like, not only does it prevent backflow, but it also prevents like low pressure forwards flow. And so that if you put it right at your nozzles, when your coolant is off, it does not drip, the rest of it onto your part. Which,
yeah,
there's nothing worse than like cleaning a part off, turning around to like go grab the tool to get it out of the fixture, and then have all the coolant, drip back through your nozzles onto it.
that's a really good point because I still have that. It's not as bad as it used to be, but I still have it dripping some. And so if we move that check valve up right next to the nozzles, probably fix that issue. That's a good point. I might have to do that. I don't remember what nozzle or what check valve we ended up getting, um, but I might have to give that a shot and see if that fixes that because I was definitely blowing off parts today, and then I'd go to stick my hand under it, and all of a sudden I just have a stream of water flow
Yeah.
out of the coolant system. I'm just like, now my part's soaked, and so are my hands, and now I got coolant all over my hands.
Yeah.
Which we switched brands of coolant a while back, and I think I brought this up once before, but I'm not as big of a fan of it as I thought I would be.
Mm.
It's like a vegetable oil base, and so when it gets up, when you run it for long hours, and it kind of becomes like steamy in there, especially when you're on like a face mill, and it like atomizes the coolant as it hits the face mill, it turns into a mist. It gets into everything, and it's fine in mist form, but when it sits on the surface for a long time, it kind of turns into like a oil that's
Yep.
not in the water anymore, and it's just this nasty yellow. And it's we had to pull our sticker off, our Tormach sticker, because that oil got behind the sticker and it started to
Mm.
fall off. It was
Yep.
like it was so nice to have that Tormach 1100 stickered for photo ops, like in your machine, but the coolant got behind it and kind of took it off. So
I I have taken off at least the stickers that are inside my mill. At least I think I have. I If Tormach had not been so nice to me, and they have been really nice to me, I would not have any of their branding on my machine. Like, why am I advertising their machine? And plus, it only, like, having a Tormach on social media sometimes kind of draws attention. Like, that's not a real machine. You could do it if you had a, insert
mm-hmm.
machine here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, they've been really great on customer support and stuff.
Well, I liked it more because it gave the background something interesting to look at,
Yeah.
an interesting setting, rather than just having like the plain white back. Like, because like there's certain images that like when you can just like have your item sitting on the bed of your machine, and then in the background you can see something interesting with words. It kind of paints the setting of you machined it.
So on my spindle housing, like the head of the machine, I
Mm-hmm.
took vinyl and put what we call our alphabet soup pattern on it, which is just the logo and random orientations to make it
Mm-hmm.
more interesting. And I would do something like that on the outside of my machine too.
Yeah.
My
Well, I'm talking
Tormach
about that
stops treating me
that
so
in,
nicely.
that internal face
Yeah.
next to the spindle column. That's in. We don't have a vinyl cutting machine or any big stickers.
I thought you had a
Or I
Cricut.
probably would have. Huh?
I thought you had a Cricut.
No, 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 I don't.
Oh no, you got a
Um,
Cricut at like your previous job to make
my,
masks or something like that.
yeah, my previous job they had a Cricut for making masks. yeah, it was that was a fun little side project. But I personally don't have one. I have some friends that have crickets, but I haven't had anything cut off to make for that yet.
Yeah. I got one pretty much right before we moved here. And during the move, we let my brother borrow it. And
Hmm.
like I just got it back. So now I can go back to making, more vinyls for my machine. Make it a little bit more design the everything. I was thinking about putting the design the everything values on the inside of the machine right there. I thought that would be cool.
That would be cool. Branding and kind of having some of making your space your own. Um, I think that always gives like a cool feel to videos whenever you do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's kind of like This Old Tony. I always like how he fits in subscribe in
Yes.
every one of his episodes somewhere. Like he'll like flip over a page, it'll be subscribe, or like his machine, instead of having the machine name, will have subscribe where the machine name was in like a similar type font. Like I always enjoy those little Easter eggs because it's not in your face, but it's like an Easter egg that you can find that I'm sure has really helped him grow his crowd because
Yeah.
he's a master at his craft.
um, with like the design the everything social media, and I have not gotten like I'm not good at following this anymore. But back when we were doing Instagram heavily, like we had a rule that was every post needs to have either something orange in it or a design the everything product in every single
Mm-hmm.
post. And like that's actually kind of the genesis of like the orange shirt and like putting orange in my machines is like it just makes following that rule easier. And now it's pretty
That makes sense.
recognizable. Everyone knows that Design the Everything is the company that does orange.
Yeah, yeah. Orange definitely does stick out. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I guess they're rigid. I was going to say I don't know if there's any tool makers that do orange, but rigid does orange.
Yeah.
There's,
Um, I was very disappointed when I got my Orange Vice ZPS and it was black. It's like, come on, your
oh,
name is Orange Vice. Why is your Vice not orange?
yeah. That's a good point.
They
Mm.
have a big missed opportunity there.
Well, they do have a lot of orange stuff in their products,
They
but yeah,
do.
it's orange and black for sure.
They use orange as a accent color. And
Hmm.
I feel like it should, like with a name like Orange Vice, it should be your primary color.
Yeah, yeah. They've done really good though.
Yeah. They discontinued my 0 point system though.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
That's
Which
that's
I was gonna
upsetting.
switch away from it anyway, but that was like, oh, I guess I'm doing that now.
Have you looked at doing like a 0 point system for your doing like a tombstone for your fourth axis?
I would love to. I just haven't gone down that route yet.
Yeah, I've the fourth axis is on my bucket list or shopping list. I don't know, depending on how you look at it. Depends on which comes first, but it's something that I would like to acquire at some point in the future, and I would love to have it as a quick change setups. Specifically for like some of that gun stuff that I'm looking at doing. If you could have as a quick change, you could load up a slide and machine all the way
Yep.
around it, and then swap it out, do a hot swap instead of having to load it up in the machine. I
Mm.
think that'd be pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really gone down to the fourth axis fixturing route. I really want a I don't remember if they make them that's a 5C or if it's like an ER40 fixture
Mm-hmm.
nose thingy for those, but I would like something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I actually think the one I have, the micro arc, is supposed to come with one, but mine was used, and so I only have a 3 jaw.
Uh could be.
Um,
I think they
but
do. I think they do 5C.
yeah, I don't.
I
I don't remember
remember.
if it's 5C or ER40.
I think it's something for sure. But well, I think I'm coming down to the end of this. What about you? You got anything else?
Um, let's see. Looking at my list here, the I mean, we haven't spent very much time talking about the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is so close. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I did some product. Well, I've had a person, Adam C, doing the product photography for me, and that is coming back fantastic. He's knocking it out of the park.
Awesome.
And then I have been making a couple videos to go along with it, like Bender, the carabiner testing robot. I did a video of that and made a GIF, and then also I did a video where I you got
Did
to
you
look
just
on your
call him
face.
Bender?
Yeah, that was the name we came up with in the Discord. It stands for something.
Okay,
Um, we,
I
we,
didn't know if you
we
had a Futurama reference in there.
it was a Futurama reference.
Okay,
We acronymed it. I
okay.
can't remember what the acronym stands for because it's like borderline gibberish, but
Mm-hmm.
we made it work. So he's Bender
Mm-hmm.
now. Um,
That's great.
and like, oh, so I did another video that was me tying the carabiner to a balloon and
Mm-hmm.
floating it away. And it turns out you can float away one of these carabiners with just one helium balloon.
Oh wow.
So that I wanted a way to show how light it was because every time I hand one to someone, they go, "Wow, it's really light."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I want to record one more video, at least maybe two more. We talked about the one I want to do with the do it on a green screen, the like
Mm-hmm.
the um,
Changing
like the
backgrounds.
make it count video by that one guy,
Yeah.
Casey
Mm-hmm.
Neistat. Yeah. And then I still want to do 4 videos before the Kickstarter, but I still don't have an idea for the fourth one.
I know I know it's not for climbing, but like if you could, this would be hard, but I think it would be really cute and kind of funny if you could have like your keys climbing up a mountain, and that was their carabiner.
Hmm.
Like, but that sounds a lot more complicated than, but and it's like climbing up your pants, and it's like clipping onto the side of your pants. It's like the for your keys.
I mean, that'd be doable. I've been meaning to. I've actually been meaning to go back and like redo my testing video, putting googly eyes on the carabiner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because I think that'd be funny. Uh, I I also need to schedule like 30 days worth of social media posts. I would
Yeah.
like to have at least most of those scheduled before I start the
Mm-hmm.
campaign.
That goes a long
Um,
ways.
yeah, that's also a lot of work,
Mm.
but so I don't know. I'm September 5th is the launch date. So
Oh, exciting! That's coming
yeah,
up real quick.
yes, it is.
That's a week from today. Oh, I
Yep.
know what we're going to be talking about a week from today.
Yes. Oh, you're right. Yeah, will be recording on the day that I launch.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you ever
yeah.
looked at like
So
have you ever looked at like one of those pages that's like if you want to launch a product, this is the best time to do it on the best day of the week for.
I haven't. Um, yeah, that's probably worth thinking about. I know on Etsy I get the majority of my sales on Sundays for whatever
Mhm.
reason. Um, but I don't know. Launching on a Monday just seemed like appropriate. Hey, it's the beginning of the
Yeah.
week.
There was a thing I saw, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it analyzed like a couple thousand Kickstarter campaigns and their different categories, and it was like if you're launching in this category, then it's the best month to do it is in July on a Tuesday, like
Hmm.
the third weekend at like this time. It's like those are the most successful launches, and it goes down into way more detail that like you'd think, but at the same time they'd be talking about like half a percent or 4%
Yeah.
difference. Um, which if you're trying to be the most optimized you can be, might make a difference. But I did think one thing that they did say is kind of like across the board. I think like 3 p.m. I don't remember what time zone it was in, but like 3 p.m. during your day was like one of the best times to launch. And I don't know if that's just because that's right before everyone gets off work or kind of when I don't know, but it was 3 p.m. I remember stuck in my brain. I think it was 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Everything else being equal, the month, the days of the week, and the time. I think 3 p.m. on a Tuesday
Hmm.
was the best time for a Kickstarter launch, if I remember.
That sounds about right to me. Because I think that's like when the peak of my social media usage is around 3 p.m. Like not my usage, but like the analytics I see of other people interacting with my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why I release all of my YouTube videos at 10 a.m. is because like noon to 3 is the major time. So releasing it at 10, like make sure that it's there at
Mm-hmm.
3 when people are
Yep,
using it most.
that makes sense. Got anything else?
Nope, I think I'm good for you to wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank everyone for tuning in to our podcast. This is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity and AJ with Design the Everything. And we thank you for listening to the podcast, and we hope that you'll tune in next week.
Bye.